Hey guys, Marsing here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so in an interesting twist of fate, the Wicked Bloodline stage of Extreme Super Battle Road has been announced and is coming out very soon on Global. So I'm going to put this video up probably Saturday night. It's about a day earlier than I would normally put up the team building guides, but I didn't actually do one when the stage dropped on JP. And so this stage hasn't actually been out that long on JP. So maybe there are some JP players that will stumble across this and find it somewhat useful as well. So remember, it wasn't that long ago we got stage 31, the Reps of Universe 7, and now we are getting stage 32, Wicked Bloodline. So this one is very difficult from what I've been told. I was chatting to Truth about it the other day, and apparently all the units in here do hit really hard, because there are some very good defensive options. So it's going to be interesting to see. I already have an idea in mind of what the no item run team is going to look like, but obviously we will see how that goes. As always, these guides are not for doing no item runs, they're for just helping you guys actually be able to beat the stage. So Wicked Bloodline, it's kind of interesting bringing this page up to start looking through and opening up the sub pages for the units we're going to talk about. I'm reminded how few buffs this category gets, like, over time, because the release of the LR Full Power Frieza and then the third form Frieza, and then I guess like the Easy A and the Awakening for this Cooliza, they're kind of like, they're the most recent buffs, and they were quite some time ago. So we really need a new lead. Imagine a Wicked Bloodline team that had like a full 200% lead. That would be pretty insane. So as always with my team building guides, I'm going to go over my top picks and honorable mentions for cards that you should bring. As I always say, if there's any units I miss out or you think I should have talked about more, let me know down below in the comment section. And of course, if you find this guide helpful at all, whether you are on JP or Global, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I try and do guides for every stage of these when I get the opportunity to, and I know I've had a lot of good feedback about them, so let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So jumping straight in, I don't know if this guy is even an honorable mention anymore. I just wanted to point out the fact that technically he is the main Wicked Bloodline leader, right? 170 across the board. At least he did get a 170 across the board, because we've even had units come out in the last, like, you know, few months, like the Goku and Kid Buu on Global, that don't even have 170 across the board. So he's got a good leader skill. It's just, unfortunately, this unit is incredibly aged. He lowers attack on Super, which is good for Super Battle Road, but then he doesn't have a lot of defense. He heals you a little bit at the end of the turn after he receives an attack, but realistically in ESBR, he's not going to be healing you as much as he's going to be taking. So he's probably not a great option to bring as the lead. He does have the transformation that gives you a couple of turns of free damage, but other than that, I feel like he's probably not really even worth bringing on the team, which is unfortunate. So there was kind of the case for a long time where this guy was not the go-to Wicked Bloodline leader. For a very long time, STR Cooler was the go-to Wicked Bloodline leader, because every single Wicked Bloodline unit, I think, I don't know if there are any exceptions, are on Terrifying Conquerors or Transformation Boost. So this guy was like the go-to lead, even though he technically wasn't a Wicked Bloodline leader. He also supports Transformation Boost or Terrifying Conquerors, depending on the number of enemies. And again, like every Wicked Bloodline unit on that team fits into one or both of those categories. So in Super Battle Road, obviously he's going to be supporting the Terrifying Conquerors enemies while there's still multiple enemies. And then it'll drop down to Transformation Boost when there's only one left. Now, Cooler is kind of in a similar boat to Metal Cooler. Not exactly the same, obviously, but in the sense that he has aged. Not as much, but he does lower attack on Super, which is good. But without an item active, even the enemy he attacks and lowers the attack of is going to be doing pretty significant damage to him. Now, every single stage of Wicked Bloodline ESBR has a Pure Saiyan enemy. So he is going to be able to get that early transformation. So turn 3, he's going to be able to transform into Final Form Cooler, where he's then doing a lot more damage, infinitely stacking attack, getting guaranteed crits. So very easy to get his transformation. Well, that's Pure Saiyan or hybrids, but yeah, every stage has one or both of those. So he could still be a decent unit to bring, but in terms of like the no item run, I don't think I will be bringing him just because of how his overall defense, but he can still look very good. So with like a Whis active on the turn, he's providing support, he's lowering attack, like he can still be very useful. Now, the unit that I think is probably going to be the best lead in order to build the team, this is what I'm going to try at least for the first attempts for the no item run, is to run LR full power Frieza. So his leader skill is Sworn Enemies or Planet Namek Saga. Basically every Frieza in the game pretty much is on Sworn Enemies. So this does unfortunately mean that you can't bring any cooler units. You can't bring Cooliza. You can't bring King Cold. But I mean, yeah. So this team is basically full Friezas. Now, full power Frieza is very good. He starts off with reasonable defense, and obviously he builds up over time. So in a short mode like Extreme Super Battle Road, that can be a downside. And then obviously the big thing is he gets a guaranteed additional super if he gets hit in slot 1. But in Extreme Super Battle Road, you probably don't want to be putting him in slot 1, because even with an item active, there's obviously the possibility that he's going to take one or even multiple supers in that first slot, which is not really what you want. So I wouldn't be putting him in slot 1 necessarily, but I do think he can be a very strong unit, because in slot 2 or 3 he still has a chance to do an additional super attack. It's just not guaranteed. So even at 55% he can triple super regardless of which slot you put him in. Obviously if there's no attacks in slot 1, you don't want to put him in slot 1 because he won't get a chance to additional from his passive at all. But yeah, he can be very, very strong. He raises defense on his 18 key and attack on his 12 key. Both of them are infinite stacks. So obviously, as much as you want to do as much damage as possible, you probably want to try and get his 18 key super, right? So you can have as much defense as possible in order to take any of the hits on the way back. But I do think double full power Frieza leads is the best way to go. But obviously, it depends what you have available in your box, because like I said, it excludes all cooler units because they're not on Sworn Enemies. So next up, we have the LR First Form Frieza. I thought I'd throw him in here as an honourable mention. I'm not sure how he's going to hold up in ESBR, because he still is probably one of, if not the best free-to-play unit in the game. In Extreme Super Battle Road, I would probably recommend deliberately going for his 12 key super, because then he greatly raises his defense. Obviously, he's not going to be doing as much damage, and on his 18 key, he does greatly lower attack, which can be very useful. But if I was going to bring him on the team, I'd probably use him as like a third slot floating unit. And then, you know, he's not going to hopefully be in the way of too many attacks. The problem with that, of course, is he gets 3 extra key in slot 3, and he gets 3 extra key against super class enemies, which, of course, there are a lot of. So you have to be careful. If you're deliberately trying to get his 12 key super, if you're putting him in slot 3 and attacking a super class enemy, he's going to be getting 6 key when he goes to attack, so that's something to bear in mind. But he has a good link set, he has big bad bosses, he has legendary power, like he's going to be good on this team. He's just not going to be an absolute like defensive juggernaut, but he will still be a very solid option to bring, and of course being free to play, most people will have this guy unless you are very, very new. So next up we have Golden Frieza, and this is probably the most important unit to bring. This one or the tech one. I didn't bring up the page for the tech one because they are very similar. Both of them are ridiculously good tanks as long as you are above the HP threshold. That is the only downside to these units. If you start the turn and your HP is below 40%, his passive will not activate and he will get absolutely destroyed. But as long as it is active, damage reduction of 90% is pretty OP. So he also gets a little bit of extra key and attack if you pick up 4 orbs. So technically you only need to pick up 4 orbs for him to super, because then that'll give him 6 key. He infinitely stacks attacks, so if he gets any additionals, obviously he'll do a bit more damage each time. But he's not really a unit that does a crazy amount of damage. He's kind of starting to age a little bit in really hard content, because he has 90% damage reduction, which is insane, but he has no defense. So in much harder content now, especially with supers, especially type disadvantage supers, he is actually still going to take, like, he's not going to walk into this ESBR stage and just take double digit damage from everything. But he is still going to be one of the best defensive units that you can bring. And then the tech one is basically the same. His HP restriction is only 50%, but his damage reduction is lower. So obviously this guy technically is the better tank, but the tech one does do more damage. So for me personally, I'm going to go for the first few no item attempts, bring this guy and the tech one, and then both your rotations will be a Golden Frieza in slot 1, and then LR Full Power Frieza in slot 2, because as we've already said, you don't really want to put him in slot 1 in case he gets tagged by a super attack, and I think that will work really, really well. So next up, we have Tech Transforming Frieza. Tech Transforming Frieza is interesting because I've tried him out a few times in movie bosses ESBR, and even after getting like a super off, he still takes a lot of damage if you don't have an item active, because he does raise defense on super, is an infinite stack. But yeah, without an item active, he is still potentially going to take a lot of damage. He heals at the start of the turn, and obviously as he goes up through his transformations, he's going to be getting more and more powerful. ESBR is not a long event, so you're probably not going to get much further than like third form Frieza, but he's going to keep giving you a heal at the start of the turn. He can do decent damage, and then post super attack, his defense is pretty good, but in terms of ESBR, I don't think he's like, you know, tanking with no items kind of level of defense. But he can put out a lot of damage, and having that heal can be very useful. And of course, he has a very good link set as well. So definitely a solid pick for the team. Next up, we have Third Form Frieza. So he is LR Full Power Frieza's best friend. Obviously, if you're running the LR Full Power Frieza team and running a team full of Friezas, as we've already said, they're basically all on sworn enemies. So he's giving 3 key and 40% attack and defense to all of them, which is really, really good. Now, the thing with this Frieza when it comes to difficult content like ESBR is he only raises his defense for 1 turn on super. He infinitely stacks attack. Now, he has a chance to perform multiple additionals. Even at 55%, if you get the good RNG, he can launch 3 supers in 1 turn, and then as soon as you have a dupe or skill orbs for additional, he can super attack 4 times. So that's obviously going to make his defense really, really good. Now, the one thing you have to be aware of is you can't put him in a slot, like say you're floating him in slot 3 to support the whole team. You can't put him in slot 3 with like 5 attacks, and then just, you know, without an item active, think, oh yeah, he'll be fine. Because if RNG lets you down and he gets 1 super attack, his defense is not terrible, but he is not going to tank like 5 attacks in ESBR if he's only super attack once. And then, of course, one of those being a super attack, and that's it, you're just done. I mean, unfortunately, with this being ESBR, if you are trying to do no items, even if he super attacks 4 times, if he gets super attacked in slot 3, you could just be done. So he's very good for the team, good support, very solid stats overall. As long as you have a defensive item up, like this guy's not really going to struggle at all, as well as massively buffing everybody else. So he is a top pick for sure. Very good link set, still has big bad bosses, so very, very good. Next up we have the free-to-play in Final Form Frieza. So this guy is really, really good. He could be a free-to-play leader option as well, 77% leader skill. Because he gets attack and defense 100%, which is okay. But then he gets guards all attacks, all allies key +2, and attack and defense 20% when there is a Goku family category enemy. And then when he's guarding, which he does against Goku family enemies, he has 50% damage reduction. So if we quickly go back to look at the actual list, Fight 1, Bardock, Goku family unit. Fight 2, there's Goku, Goku family unit. And Fight 3, there's Goku, Goku family unit. So this guy is going to have guard and the support for the rest of the team and his damage reduction in every single fight as long as the Goku family unit is still alive. So obviously what you want to do if you are using this guy is prioritize killing everybody else first and leave the Goku family character alive so that he'll still have his full buffs. Because if, say in the first fight, if you accidentally kill Bardock first, this guy will get folded inside out by King Vegeta. So you want to make sure that he always has that part of his passive active, and then he will actually be very useful in this event, because the fact that he's also providing support is nice, and he lowers attack on super, so definitely very, very good. And he's a free-to-play option, so he's probably a top pick for the team. Next up, we have Physical Cooler with his EZA. Now, as we said at the beginning, if you're running LR Full Power Frieza, you can't run him on the team. But if you are running STR Cooler or Metal Cooler, or even, I guess you could run Tech Frieza, right? Because he has an Extreme Types 130 lead. So you could run this guy. He's got solid attack and defense at the start. He has to build up by super attacking multiple times, but he can get to some very high numbers. He has big bad bosses. He can launch up to 3 supers, even at 55%. So he can definitely dish out a lot of damage and build up his defense fairly quickly. but he is definitely one of these units. When it comes to an event like Super Battle Road, which is the much shorter type of event, if he eats a load of attacks or even a super on like his first or second turn, he's probably not going to be tanking very well at all. So he can be a viable option for damage, and like I said, most people don't care about no item runs, so if this guy's on the rotation, just pop a Whis or a Princess Snake, and as long as he's not getting like a type disadvantage super attack, then you should be looking pretty good. Next up, we have this Angel Frieza. Now, a lot of people forget about this guy. He hasn't been on a banner recently on Global, I swear. Because mine, I think I only have like one dupe in mine. But he can be very interesting, right? He raises defense on Super and can seal. Well, it's a guaranteed seal, right? Which is really good for Super Battle Road. He has a medium chance to dodge, which can be good. Obviously, it's only 30%, so a bit risky. But the other thing with him is you can transform him straight away on turn 1 into Golden Frieza. And if you transform on turn 1, you have a great chance to stun when supering, which is obviously very good. 70% chance to stun. It is from his passive, so remember, if the stun does go off, it is only for 1 turn. And then if you're at 49% or less HP, he has 50% damage reduction. So if you're going into the second or third fight on 49% or less HP, you could transform him straight away on turn 1 and use him to be relatively good defensively. He's not going to be, you know, like the other Golden Freezers where you could just put him in slot 1 and let him tank everything, because it is only 50% damage reduction on top of the 120% attack and defense. He gets another 80 when he supers, so obviously in slot 2 or 3, he's going to be much better defensively. But just with the fact that he could stun, like you could put, if you run him as a third slot floating unit, you might only get him on rotation once or twice in the entire fight, and so you could just immediately pop his transformation and then stun the only enemy that's attacking him in the slot that you put him in, which could be very, very useful. So he could be a useful option. He's more of an honourable mention than anything else. And then last but not least, I wanted to give our man an honourable mention, since we did, you know, mention his name a couple of times, which is the Cooliza. After his EZA, he does raise defense on super, which is good. 120% attack and defense, but only when performing a super, so you cannot use him in slot 1. He has a high chance to launch an additional super, chance to perform a crit 10% with each super attack performed, so he can build up some crit chance, but he gives Wicked Bloodline category extreme class allies attack and defense 30%. So you could, in theory, use him as a third slot floating support unit. Just, again, like, I wouldn't count on him to be tanking hits particularly well, but he could be useful as a support unit, especially if you are just using items. Then obviously having units like him in slot 3 is going to make your rotation where you have like LR full power Frieza, right? It's just going to power him up and make him do a ton more damage. So it could be worth bringing for the support. So looking back at the list, speaking of support units, I didn't mention the Tech Golden Cooler. He's going to EZA this year. I think he's in that batch of units with the Heroes EZAs. Pre-EZA, his defense is just not good. He needs a Heroes ally to be able to additional super, which this team does not have any other like Heroes units. And then he is providing a decent amount of support, but he will just get absolutely clapped up like by attacks. He is not going to be good in this stage whatsoever. And I'm sure some people might have mentioned, oh, you know, the AGL AoE Frieza and the physical free-to-play AoE second form Frieza. These guys, I think I tried them out in Transformation Boost when that ESBR stage first dropped, and they have not aged well in terms of their defense. I'd be interested to know if any of you guys do try them out in this stage. Let me know how they performed, but based on the last time I used them, they didn't even warrant being an honourable mention for this, because even with an item active, their defense is just not good. The Frieza could be pretty good because he can stun and seal, which obviously can be very useful. But yeah, their defenses, they're both very old units now, and their defense is not good. Same with like EZA in Metal Cooler. He was a really good support unit when he first got his EZA, but he is super outdated now. Both these two LRs very outdated. Same with Metal Cooler. I really can't wait for the Metal Cooler Army LR to get their EZA. I think they'll be really good. But that is going to do it for my top picks and honourable mentions. So, like I said at the beginning, let me know if there's any units you think I missed out or should have talked about more. And let me know what your team build is going to look like going into this Wicked Bloodline Extreme Super Battle Road. Let me know all of that down below in the comment section. So, that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store. And I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.